Okay, all the carpet's torn up, all the carpet padding is torn up, and the tack strips for the carpet that went along the perimeter of the room are pulled up. Those are pulled up with a pry bar and a finish head, smooth head hammer. Smack it underneath the carpet strip and just pry it up. Go all along the room, throw that all out. Now what we got left, prior to screwing down the subfloor, is to go around the room and pick up all the staples that were holding down the carpet padding. And you do that again using that finish surface hammer, a flathead screwdriver. This combination is for the stubborn staples. And for the majority of the staples, you can take a nice fat set of pliers and just grip the staple and pull it up. Have fun! Okay, swept up all that debris, got all the staples up, and as you sweep, it'll be easier to find even more staples that you haven't gotten up. And sometimes the wall staples have inched their way out, so go along that wall with a finish hammer and hammer them in. Now is your opportunity to screw down the particle board subfloor to the joists instead of using non-ring shank staples like they've done, so you can avoid having creak in the future. They will have lines drawn up and down where the floor joists are supposed to be, but that is not always where they are. So, take a drill like this with a little bit on it, not very wide, and if you drill through, say, right here, you'll feel it give way. That's the depth of your subfloor. It could be anywhere from ½ inch to 1 inch or so. And you'll see a staple line, but that won't necessarily be where the floor joists are located. That sunk right through. That was in the middle of the staples. Based on the deformation of the subfloor, it looks as if the floor joist is actually on this side of the staple line. So let's test that. Is that the case? Pre-drill a little bit. That is the case. So, since the floor joists run this way, I'm going to go all along the staple line. And I'm going to mark off the holes that are successful. And of those successful holes, I will make a line indicating where the actual floor joist is. Okay. We've got one line, and in order to snap a string line with one person, you need some sort of fastener. So I'm just going to use one of the screws that I'd otherwise use to fasten down the subfloor. What we've got here is a 17-point tip screw, kind of self-tapping into wood, and a square drive, which isn't my favorite, but whatever's cheap on eBay. This is galvanized, so that it resists corrosion. Don't drive it all the way down though, but pretty close. If we drive it down pretty close, then the cone of the screw will function as a push-down mechanism. And we take our string line and string it all the way across, lining up all those marked holes we marked, and hopefully that's a straight line. If it is, then you're good to follow the line pretty much while you screw all your screws down. Let's see, how does that line up? That's pretty good right there. And of course, if you end up noticing that you're missing the floor joist with your screws, you can just drive it in a different place. I'm going to screw every, I don't know, 8 inches on or so. to screw below the below the floor, so you're sucking it down. Another feature that these screws have is that part of the shank is smooth. That helps suck the subfloor down the joist instead of putting torque on the whole assembly. Helps flatten out your subfloors. I'm sure my neighbor's liking this. About 1 in the morning. And I'm going to go ahead and fill these holes. This is the primer you're supposed to use. It's transparent when you lay it on, so it has no pigments in it, which you don't need for underlayments. And it smells real strong, and it smells different. It's full of real good stuff. However, it's like $7 a bottle, whereas this masonry primer is free on Craigslist. Free primer. This has been sitting for 3 years. Well, the solids are pretty solid in there, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to break up. And since I've had all this time to think about it, I imagine it's actually better if you're in this situation like I am, to leave the primer to be a lower viscosity so that it simply seals the pores better. We do not need a lot of the solids, which are pigments. This easy. Okay, here's area number 2. Windows are open, heat is on. Alrighty. Self-leveler will just pour into that crack. Tough to one-man this. You're supposed to mix slowly, like a game. But not too slow, or else it'll get kind of not so flowy on you when it's time to pour. Bucket's a bit heavy. Pretty awkward. And it's not enough to cover the floor.
Watch yourself on the staples on the bottom, stand up there with pretty sharp. Get the good part.
This is a lighter piece than a lot of the others by a slight margin. It is my weight, 170 pounds.
How to install a gymnasium floor in your own house?
Yep.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
I'm going. It's alright.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways.
Okay, you're always going to cut through staples. You got to be careful of them. And there's one staple we can kind of prevent too much problem with. It's this staple. It's only half a staple. It's right there. You can see how the staples do split the wood. That's a pretty consistent pattern. There's a crack along there. So we can just pull this out of here, and then we don't have to route through it. Because, you know, a tongue and groove router bit set's like minimum 30 bucks on eBay.
Here. Something a little sturdier. Hey. Oh, you got it?
So, there's that chunk. But you'll see we're going to route through some steel anyway. Thank you. Okay, you want to apply a bunch of downforce to the router, not too much that you get exhausted. Kind of put your body into it. We cut the plywood back so that the router bit doesn't get pushed up by the plywood down below, and when you push it down, you're not going to start traveling upward. So that's why we cut the plywood about ½ inch back here, because we're going a little over a ¼ inch in. We want to make sure we don't run into any plywood on the run on either side. They make router bits that have like ball bearings on them. So keep it flat, keep downforce on it, keep it consistent, and go slow, especially when you run into steel. Because you're creating a lot of heat when you're going across steel, and you don't want to You don't want to melt your carbide, and you don't want to dig in too far and chip your carbide either. We want to make sure that you want to make sure the groove is completely clean, because any shit that's in there is going to make it tough for you to fit your slabs together, and it's already pretty tough, so you don't want to make it any tougher.
Well, stuff's heavy.
You see, we routed a staple right there, so if you go slow enough, I guess you don't see the sparks, but if you're going fast and you start to see sparks, slow down immediately, because eventually your router or your skill saw or whatever, it's gonna kind of grab on. There's a lot of grip when the carbide meets the steel, and it's gonna want to grab on pretty hard.
Make the staple pop.
Yeah,
Linear wood.
it just tears the metal through the wood and just causes damage. Pretty brutal sometimes.
All right, what we're gonna do here is probably sign off just long enough to get the camera set inside and show you how we're putting one of these down. What you're listening to in the background is live Tom Sullivan show from the studios in New York City. Best guy in radio. Get informed. He'll let you know.
Yes. Yes. Video games. That's right there. Unit. Good old M1 that I first started. The only reason the M16 came on wasn't as heavy. It wasn't heavy. It was opposite. So you broke it down easy. Yeah. But I mean, the U.S. military used M1s, which were big old heavy, gun stocks. Yeah, well,
Actually, be careful of your tongue edge over there. We don't want to drop it on top of it. You can just slide it in.
You feel qualified for the job bring it. In the military? Really? In the military, yeah. I don't think the Navy did. They are heavy buggers. I think that they can drag it around there.
Now during this process, we're going to make it all come together.
Yeah, you can have it for any other reason. That's exactly why.
If you want to know what camera not to buy, it's like a Sanyo 100 HD or something like that.
I'm going to need maybe just a little bit of weight right here.
Okay.
Blue.
That's a case. In fact, it was publicity about the off-duty sheriff that stepped in and where was that? San Antonio, that's right. Yeah, it's down the road. Yeah.
Yeah, we're moving.
Gotcha. Hold on. Let me get my back corner. Because if I push this back corner, then that'll fix that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. What do you need for you to do? I need for you to step right here.
whatever they desire, they go down and kill themselves. So.
Yeah. You with me?
There it went.
There it went.
that control room, all people that's free, and gun free now. So, at least
That's what as much as we're going to get right now until we suck this board over.
A little bit.
we just get the Democrat senator from so.
That's good.
Well, we could move it over this way quite a bit.
But I'm concerned
You know,
that the,
and we will.
people in Washington are gonna come
When
up
we
with
get
some-
another board in, when we get another board in, we can also suck it in, and then when we get that board in, use that board against this,
Go away, my name's Tunzel.
the whole nine.
Yeah.
When you have cash on hand from Ox Credit, you can turn
These big pieces aren't easy to put together.
today.
Just keeping your lines straight off the boards. We got good seams running off our lengths. Although right here, you're looking at a little bit of a gap, obviously, but the difference between the gap all the way through is pretty straight. There's only a little subtle gap. That will come together when we get the next big piece in.
800-350-7300.
As long as you keep your lines straight and square off the existing material,
Come to my new seminar.
you can at least trust that you should be able to line up well enough.
Your chance to explore the strategy.
If it's not an exact seam, it's not an exact science. We've got, like I said, material that was once down before that we're using again. So there's going to be whatever elements that previous material had been exposed to. Your summers, your winters, your hot, your cold, your expansion, your contraction that can take place, you're going to have imperfections using older material or material that had been used before like this. But those subtle little gaps, once this entire material has been laid down, we also are tightening it down with screws, countersinking them into the floor joists. The purpose of that will also help ensure those minor seams, they can't quite totally meet seamlessly. We can putty and have refinish with it then being drilled down afterwards. We don't have to worry about that separation or those gaps rearing their ugly heads again.
Again, I have no information about
Ultra continues tonight on Radio 1. We catch up with Paul Oakenfold tonight, coming from home at Space in Ibiza.
Applying the sealer coat. Based on its drying time, I imagine it's a water-based polyurethane. First we go cross-grain. And we pull it back along the grain. Safety glasses on. Got our bit in the router. And don't turn the speed all the way up because that'll probably put too much speed on the edge of the bit. And you might end up wearing your bits out prematurely. Make sure it's seated flat on the ground and stays seated flat. Additional aluminum flashing we'll use as a continuation of the duct up through the floor. But you can see it's pretty much a perfect cutout of the duct. So here's that living room area we saw earlier. You can still see the problem areas, but they're not nearly as pronounced now that there are 4 coats of a 2-coat system of satin oil-based polyurethane covering it. But yeah, the sealer coat was definitely problematic. Definitely recommend doing all your work in the daytime. This is a seam in between some panels, and you can definitely see the wood filler in there. But the fact that these are large tiles is not very pronounced. One problem you're going to probably run into is the floor is going to be raised like 2 inches, so you need to pad out other areas and decide what to do. I just had a bunch of like free granite slabs off Craigslist, so figured that's the cheapskate way to go, is just drop some slabs into the wet areas or the super high wear areas. Your wood will get scratched if it's not protected near the entryway where there's a bunch of dirt and stuff on your shoes as you enter the house.